Chapter 1, The Old Housekeeper's Late Spring Days. April in Nebraska, wild roses bloomed in full glory, their tiny pink and white petals scattered across the oak veranda floor like a light dusting of powdered sugar. I sat on a wicker chair beneath the veranda, watching young maids hurry past carrying silver food trays, the lace trim on their aprons fluttering gently with each step. Bathed in the morning light, those flutters made my eyes ache slightly. "Mama Winnie, try this fresh-baked blueberry muffin." Lily, a young maid, approached with a gilded porcelain plate. Steam curled from the porcelain bowl on the plate, and the sweet aroma of butter and blueberries mingled with the scent of roses, drifting into my nostrils. I took the bowl, my fingertips brushing the warm porcelain. Its heat seeped into my heart, softening it a little. This girl had come to the manor last year. She was lively, though still clumsy with her hands. Just a few days ago, she'd nearly dropped a bone china coffee cup while serving Mrs. Blackwood. "Slow down, what's the rush?" I scooped a spoonful of muffin and slowly put it in my mouth. "The paths in this manor need to be walked step by step. Only then won't you trip." Lily stuck out her tongue and sat down beside me, her eyes brimming with curiosity. "Mama, are you thinking about the past again? Tell us more about when you first came to Blackwood Manor, please." Several other maids who'd been mending clothes gathered around, their eyes glowing with anticipation. As I looked at their bright, youthful faces, so like my own once, I sighed softly. Time waits for no one. Before I knew it, I'd spent over 40 years in this manor, from a timid young maid to the respected housekeeper Winnie everyone looked up to now. "Very well, I'll tell you one more time." I set down the porcelain bowl and turned my gaze toward the lilac bushes in the distance. Those bushes had been planted by Miss Isabella herself. Now they'd grown lush and dense, bursting into fiery bloom every spring. Chapter 2, First Days at the Manor, Scent of Needle and Thread. It was winter 1975, and I'd just turned 15, when my distant uncle sent me to Blackwood Manor. I remembered the snow falling heavily that day, the carriage crunching over snowdrifts, a sound that matched the thudding of my heart. When I lifted the carriage curtain, I was stunned by what I saw. The manor's main red brick building stood tall and imposing, its brass door handles glinting coldly in the snowlight. I clutched my sewing basket tightly, my only thought being, I must work hard here, earn enough money to send home, and let my younger brother keep going to school. After entering the manor, I was assigned to the laundry room, where I learned the rules from housekeeper Hannah. Housekeeper Hannah was a strict woman, always with a stern expression, and she set high standards for us all. "In this manor, rules are your livelihood," she told me as her first lesson. "See nothing you shouldn't see, hear nothing you shouldn't hear, say nothing you shouldn't say, only then will you last." I took those words to heart. Every day, I rose before dawn to learn guest room tidying, table setting, and how to attend to the masters. The smallest mistake earned a sharp rebuke. Thankfully, I'd learned sewing from my mother since childhood, and my needlework skills were passable. Once, Mrs. Blackwood needed a rose-embroidered silk scarf for a governor's dinner party. Housekeeper Hannah pushed me forward, and I was so nervous my palms sweated, my hands shaking as I held the needle. But the moment the needle touched the silk, I gradually calmed down. A vivid rose began to take shape under my fingers, its petals so lifelike that dewdrops seemed ready to fall from them. "This girl has talent, her needlework has spirit," Mrs. Blackwood said approvingly, and transferred me to the main house to attend to her directly. From then on, my days grew more stable. Beyond organizing Mrs. Blackwood's wardrobe each day, I sat by the window mending clothes. Mrs. Blackwood had a gentle temperament and treated me kindly enough, but once other ladies in the manor heard of my sewing skills, they all came asking for help. The farmer's wife wanted embroidery for her baby's cradle lining, the pastor's daughter needed lace for her ball gown, and even the usually reserved Miss Isabella asked me to embroider a handkerchief with lilac patterns. I dared not slack off, staying up late every night sewing by lamplight. Pricking my fingertips with the needle was common. When blood stained the fabric, I'd gently wash it away with water and keep sewing. When housekeeper Hannah saw my hands covered in pinpricks, she always shook her head. "Silly girl, don't overwork yourself, your health is your own." I'd smile and hand her a cup of hot cocoa. Housekeeper, I'm fine. The more work I do, the more money I can save to send home for my brother's school fees. Back then, I thought if I stayed obedient and worked diligently, I could pass my years at the manor in peace. Once I'd saved enough money, I could take my savings home and live a quiet life. But I never imagined that within these manor's red brick walls, peace had never truly existed. Chapter 3, Warm Blanket by the Lilac Bushes. One late autumn evening, Mr. Blackwood suddenly sent for me, ordering me to embroider a woolen blanket overnight to give to a visiting senator's wife the next morning. I dared not delay, grabbing my sewing basket and hurrying to the main house. The wind was cold, cutting through me, and I pulled my thin coat tight around myself as I quickened my pace. Passing Miss Isabella's garden, I glanced over casually, and spotted a figure kneeling by the lilac bushes in the moonlight. It was late autumn already, with a light frost covering the ground. Kneeling there must have been bitterly cold. My heart skipped a beat, recalling housekeeper Hannah's words, "In this manner, compassion is useless." I bit my lip and walked faster, yet that kneeling figure lingered in my mind. After delivering the woolen blanket, I walked back, still thinking about that figure. When I reached the garden gate, I hesitated for a long time before finally slipping inside. The moonlight was dim, allowing me only a vague outline of the person. He wore a dark gray riding outfit, his back straight and rigid. Even on his knees, he exuded an unyielding aura. Afraid to approach, I pulled a thick woolen blanket I'd just sewn for my father from my arms, gently set it beside him, then hurried away. I'd made that blanket from the thickest wool, embroidering simple geometric patterns on it, thinking it would keep my father warm while he worked on the ranch that winter. But now, I just wanted to help this stranger endure the cold a little longer. The next day, as I mended clothes in the manor as usual, I heard maids whispering that Master Thomas, Mr. Blackwood's son, had knelt in the garden all night. My heart jolted. Could that figure from last night have been Master Thomas, not a visitor? I dared not think further, a wave of fear washing over me. Master Thomas was the manor's heir. For a lowly maid like me to give him a blanket, if anyone found out, the consequences would be unthinkable. After that, I grew even more cautious, determined never to meddle in others' affairs again. But fate loves to play tricks. Before long, I encountered Master Thomas once more. The Blackwoods hosted a lawn picnic that day, and I was told to embroider name tags for the guests. I sat at an oak table, working carefully, when suddenly someone called my name. Looking up, I saw Master Thomas. Dressed in a cream casual suit, he wore a gentle smile as he approached. "Miss Winnie, do you remember me?" I stood up quickly, lowering my head in a bow. Maid Winnie greets Master Thomas. Panic surged inside me, fearing he might mention that night. Master Thomas smiled, gesturing to the needle and thread in my hands. "Your needlework is still excellent. By the way, I really liked that blanket you gave me last time, but it's getting old now. Could you sew me another?" I froze, surprised he'd bring up the blanket so openly. I nodded quickly. "It would be my honor, Master." From then on, Master Thomas and I crossed paths more often. He came to see me sometimes, asking me to mend clothes, other times just chatting. Unlike other noble young masters who acted high and mighty, he was approachable, telling me stories of life outside the manor and his experiences at university. Gradually, I let my guard down, occasionally sharing news of my family and my hopes for returning home someday. Yet I knew the gulf between our statuses was unbridgeable. I never dared to hope for more, only praying I could save enough money safely and leave for home soon. Chapter 4, Manor Turmoil, A Brush with Death. In 1983, old Mr. Blackwood fell seriously ill, and the manor's atmosphere turned tense overnight. Master Thomas and his cousin Jack fought openly and secretly for the inheritance, scheming against each other. As I watched people in the manor change beyond recognition, fear took root in my heart. Housekeeper Hannah took my hand, her voice earnest. "Winnie, you must be extra careful these days. Never get involved in the young master's fight, otherwise, you won't even know how you lost your job." I took her warning to heart, staying in my quarters every day, and avoiding contact with others as much as possible. But even so, I couldn't escape the chaos. That night, I sat sewing Master Thomas's riding jacket by lamplight, when I suddenly heard shouting outside. Terrified, I blew out the lamp and hid in the wardrobe. Through the crack in the door, I saw a group of bodyguards rush in with flashlights, searching everywhere. My heart raced, fearing they might find me. After what felt like an eternity, the noise outside faded. I climbed out of the wardrobe, my whole body trembling. Just then, the door opened and Master Thomas walked in. His coat was stained with mud, his face tired yet his eyes resolute. "Winnie, are you all right?" He stepped forward, his voice filled with concern. I shook my head, unable to speak. He looked at me, silence stretching between us, before finally saying, "Father is gone. Jack planned an accident to drive me out of the manor, but I've dealt with it. From today onward, I am the master of Blackwood Manor." I stared at Master Thomas, suddenly feeling like I barely knew him. He was no longer the gentle young man I'd once known, but the powerful master of the manor. I lowered my head quickly, speaking respectfully, "Congratulations, master." He helped me to my feet, his gaze complex. "Winnie, you don't have to fear me. I won't hurt you." But I knew that from the moment he became master, nothing between us could ever be the same again. After Master Thomas took over, he carried out a major overhaul. Many who had sided with Jack were dismissed or transferred. Because of my past association with Thomas, I was dragged into the mess too. Rumors spread, some said I was Thomas's spy, others claimed I'd participated in the inheritance fight. Every day, I lived in fear of being fired. Thankfully, Thomas didn't forget me. He transferred me to the main house to manage the maids' team. I knew this was his way of protecting me, but I also understood that from then on, leaving the manor freely would never be an option again. Chapter 5, Lilacs still bloom, yet we remain unaged. As head maid, my days grew even more cautious. Beyond assigning the maids duties each day, I handled the manor's daily affairs. Thomas still treated me kindly enough, often chatting with me and asking about my family. Yet I always detected a hint of complexity and loneliness in his eyes. Once Thomas took me to see the lilac bushes Miss Isabella had planted. It was spring, and the lilacs bloomed in a fiery purple cascade, their petals carpeting the ground. Thomas stood beside the bushes, gazing at the flowers, and after a long silence, he spoke, "Winnie, you know my mother loved lilacs most. When she was alive, she'd always sit here admiring the flowers and reading." Looking at Thomas's back, my heart ached. Though he was the manor's master, he carried unseen loneliness and sorrow. I spoke softly, "Master, if Mrs. Isabella knew how well you've managed the manor, she would be very proud." Thomas turned to look at me, his eyes filled with soft tenderness. "Yenny, all these years, thank you for always being by my side." I quickly bowed my head, too afraid to meet his gaze. "Master, this is just what I ought to do." Days passed and Thomas began seeing women socially, but he rarely brought them to the manor, spending most of his time in his study, either handling manor business or watching me organize documents. Everyone in the manor assumed I would become Thomas's wife, yet I knew Thomas never had such thoughts. He saw me only as someone he could confide in, someone who reminded him of simpler times. Later, Thomas's son was born, a healthy baby boy. But the child's mother died from postpartum complications. Thomas was devastated. He handed the baby to me, saying, "Winnie, I know you're careful. I entrust this child to you." I understood this was both his trust and his way of keeping me close. I devoted all my energy to the young master, teaching him to read, ride horses, and recognize the manor's plants each day, sewing him all kinds of little toys. The young master was smart and sensible, always clinging to me and calling me Aunt Winnie, a name that warmed my heart. Thomas visited the young master often, and as he watched his son grow, smiles gradually returned to his face. Once, the young master took Thomas's hand and said innocently, "Daddy, Aunt Winnie is so nice. I want her to be my mommy someday." I panicked, quickly covering the boy's mouth, but Thomas laughed, patting his son's head. Silly child, Aunt Winnie is your elder. You can't call her that. I knew Thomas cared for me, yet he also understood the unbridgeable gap between our statuses. He couldn't give me the title of wife, this was the only way he could keep me by his side. Chapter 6, Beyond the Manor Lies Home. Time flew by, and before long the young master grew into an adult, while Thomas aged steadily. His health declined, requiring more medicine each day, and he had less energy for manor affairs. I stayed by his bedside daily, feeding him medicine, wiping his body, caring for him like family. One day, Thomas took my hand, his eyes filled with reluctance. Winnie, I know you've always wanted to go home. After I'm gone, leave this place. Find your family and live the life you've dreamed of. I looked at Thomas's pale face, tears streaming down my cheeks. Master, I won't leave. I'll stay with you. Thomas smiled, gently wiping my tears. Silly girl, I'm old now. I can't hold you back any longer. You're not too old yet, you deserve your own life. He took an envelope from his drawer and handed it to me. This is for you. Open it only after I'm gone. Not long after, Thomas passed away. The young master inherited the manor, becoming its new master. Honoring his father's last wish, he gave me my freedom, letting me leave whenever I wanted. I stood at the manor gate, holding Thomas's envelope, my heart filled with mixed emotions. Outside the manor, the sun shone brightly, and the scent of roses filled the path. My younger brother had come to fetch me with his family, his hair had turned gray, and wrinkles covered his face. When he saw me, he was too emotional to speak, only clutching my hand tightly. Sister, come home with me, my brother said, his voice breaking. Everything's ready at home, we've been waiting for you. I looked at my brother, then back at the manor behind me, suddenly feeling reluctant to leave. Within these red brick walls lay over 40 years of my youth, countless memories, people I cared for, and regrets I carried. I opened Thomas's envelope. Inside was a large check, and a note, its handwriting strong yet gentle. Winnie, I know you've always wanted to leave here, and find your own freedom. I couldn't give you the title of wife or the life you desired, only the security. I hope you can forget everything about the manor, live well, find someone who loves you, and spend your days in peace and happiness. From heaven, I will watch over you always, protecting you. Tears fell onto the note, blurring the words. I looked up at the sky, as if seeing Thomas's smile. I knew he would always be with me, never truly gone. Brother, I won't leave, I said, smiling at him. I want to stay at the manor, guarding these lilac bushes, guarding Thomas's tomb, guarding the memories I once shared here. My brother hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Wherever my sister is, that is home. And so I remained at the manor, becoming its elderly housekeeper. Every day, I watched the young maids laugh and play, telling them stories of the manor and teaching them its rules and etiquette. I no longer desired anything more, only hoping to spend my remaining days in peace within these red brick walls. Every spring, when the lilacs bloom, I sit beside the bushes, watching purple petals fall to the ground, thinking of Thomas and the little moments we shared. Though we are separated by life and death, our hearts remain forever connected. Within the manor, the lilacs still bloom, beyond its walls, home lingers in my memory. And between the manor and my hometown, I have found my true place in the world.